George DiGianni, Train Station Fitness Show. Next to me, Dr. Jeremy Webster, and also Mo. Coach Mo's in the studio.
Good morning.
Do you know your protein supplement? Many people use a protein supplement. But do you know what's in it? Do you know if it's benefiting you? Do you know if it's potentially harming you? So do we want to go through what the benefits are? Do we even need to? Don't you think everybody
I think we should? Nah.
Why don't you just run through them like bullet point form why this is beneficial?
If you think protein's not important, you're very misinformed. People always talk about DNA being like the blueprint. If you think about our bodies as a building, the blueprint, it's the map.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of the guide that allows it. Well, protein is, if you're going to stick with that building model,
Right.
protein is literally the steel, the wood, the bricks, the carpet, the wiring, the plumbing, the sound system. Everything that building is made of is protein. The reason why they're so linked is because the DNA as the blueprint does basically nothing other than code for which type of protein is put where.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
If the end game is using a protein supplement and this protein supplement is crap, it's not recognized by your body, it won't be properly utilized. It can't continually create those building blocks.
Yeah, and I think the big thing when you jump all the way to a protein supplement is all of the other stuff that's added into it. You've got all the artificial flavors, the artificial sweeteners. What's the source of the protein itself?
Right.
Like, is it from cows that are just in pens, locked up eating garbage themselves, so they're not healthy?
And is
from
it
soy?
completely devoid of any benefit because of how it's been processed, so high heat and so on?
Yes, the processing. There's so many aspects that go into this.
Right, and so Mo mentioned how there are certain proteins that are more bioavailable. And so when we talk about that, absorbing that protein into the body, but we also need to make sure that that protein is recognized by the body. So again, coming back to your DNA discussion of the building blocks, the steel, the wood, and the carpet, and so on, if it doesn't recognize what you're about to put in the body as far as part of those building blocks, then you get no benefit from it and you waste it. And that's why a lot of people, now we'll get into price, will complain about the expense of a high-quality protein, but not recognize that you'll actually absorb a high-quality protein versus buying something at one of these big box stores and it's cheap and you have an extra 5 scoops in there and it's got 5,000 grams of protein in each serving and all that crap, right? Of course, I'm being extreme when I say that, but that's not beneficial. Not only is it not beneficial, it's potentially dangerous,
Right,
and
it's
you're
inflammatory.
wasting money.
Right.
You're completely wasting money.
When I posted my podcast yesterday, one of my friends was kind of messing with me and said, I'd rather eat a steak. And my reply was, what? Hell yeah, me too. I mean, if I could eat a grass-fed, high-quality filet, yes, I would. But the reality of that is we don't have that available to us on a daily basis. Like I just started working with a young guy right now for obstacle course training, obstacle course racing, and he travels to his best options are Panera and Chili's. Those are his healthy options where he travels. So I know he's not going to be able to get a good quality source of protein. So I have him pack protein powder with him. You can just put it in a little baggie. So in between meetings, right? Another thing that I used to roadblock for clients is, well, I'm traveling, I'm driving, I'm a sales rep, I'm in my car all day. Okay, take this with you. Your best option is, and your most bioavailable option is a liquid form of nutrition.
I think most people can relate to after performing an intense exercise protocol. I don't care what that is. Your hunger is suppressed. You're not hungry.
Right.
The way that what I did this for many years, the only way I was able to get food in to help that recovery, particularly protein, is I would drink it.
And here's a point that we didn't really make, and it's not health related, but the cost factor. People think, oh, it's expensive because some of these products are $50, $60, $70, or even $80 for a tub of this stuff. But you mentioned your friend wants to eat a steak.
Right.
You know how much steak costs compared to a protein powder that's made from the same thing?
Yeah.
I mean, a steak could be $8, $10 for a decent amount of protein versus these things. Yeah, even if it's $60 or $80 a jar, that's only like $1.50 or $2 a serving versus $8 or $10 for a steak.
And you
So
don't
it's
need
very-
$8
it's
or
very
$10 for a steak. Where do you eat that steak is $8 or $10?
Well, I'm not talking about Bob's. Like I'm talking about if you buy it at a grocery store.
My
grill
mind went right to
yourself.
Bob's.
I'm talking about, if you eat a 4 or 5 ounces of steak.
Who only eats 4 or 5 ounces?
To get the same amount of protein as what's in a scoop of this protein powder.
We need to stop talking about steaks.
Yeah, you
I'm
could
starting to
double.
get hungry.
Right? You could triple up. I know what you would do, but that it would cost at least that, even if you bought it at a grocery store and cooked it yourself.
Absolutely.
So it's super cost effective from a protein standpoint. There's nothing cheaper than buying these proteins, even though they might be expensive compared to the garbage proteins that are out there.
Absolutely. You're going to pay for it now or you're going to pay for it later. And by pay for it later, we've talked about this. You're going to pay for it in medical expenses. You're going to pay for it in inflammation, in your inability to move, be mobile, play with your kids, have a healthy, fulfilling life. So spend $15 extra and get quality food and nutrients that are going to give you what you need to live long and healthy. But let's go with whey because that's the most popular one. So you've got a couple different versions. You've got whey protein concentrate, which still, basically to keep it simple, the whey protein concentrate is the least refined and processed of the types of whey. It still contains some lactose. So if you're not trying to be paleo or you're not sensitive to lactose or dairy, a whey protein concentrate is going to be the most minimally processed type of whey protein.
The importance of that is there's proteins that are intact in a whey protein concentrate that aren't intact in other more processed forms. You get these proteins that are there in the raw milk, especially if the milk isn't high heat pasteurized.
Right.
And these proteins can be beneficial for detoxification, for gut health, for immune function, immune boosting. There's a lot of properties that you get from this type of whey that you won't get from a more processed type of a whey.
And I think ultimately, as long as you don't have an issue and it's sourced properly from a grass-fed cow, try a concentrate first if that's what you want to do as far as whey protein goes. But if you are sensitive to lactose, have any sort of inflammatory issues with the gut, that's where you go into more, if, again, you want to stick with a whey, into an isolate. The isolates are a bit more processed.
There's ways that you can make a whey protein concentrate that doesn't have any lactose.
Really?
Yeah, there's other ways that you can process fresh raw milk where you get a very pristine protein whey, but you have lactose levels that are way below threshold. I've never had a single person with lactose intolerance have a problem with the whey that I use, and it's a unprocessed concentrate.
That's awesome. I think that goes down to the source, right? Like
yes.
What you were asking me earlier, George, why make this stuff? I mean, Dr. Webster, this is a protein that you make, right?
I have a protein business, Protein.com.
Yeah.
And it's very pristine protein.
But beef protein is made from all parts of the cow. You're using tail, hooves, yes, joints, all that. So you're getting the collagen fibers in there, the collagens in there as well. So it's also it's less inflammatory. It's also more healing to the gut. So if you have GI issues, if you have food allergy issues, a beef protein might be a good option for you.
But that's the one I'm familiar with. It's based on beef bone broth.
Yeah.
And you get really free-form amino acids. It's all broken down. If you want something that's just great for a pre or post workout, a lot of people think that beef is hard to digest. This is the easiest stuff to digest in the world because it's already just basically broken down with enzymes for you.
Someone asked me, why don't you just drink bone broth? And that was a great question. And I was talking to one of the creators of a bone broth protein at Paleo FX, and she said, look, I did a bone broth cleanse, and I went through this process to try to heal my gut. And honestly, I just got tired of drinking broth. I mean, at the end of the day, if you love chicken noodle soup, it's great. But if you have to drink it every day, multiple times a day, you get sick of it and you don't want to consume that anymore. So,
and the convenience also. I mean, you have to boil. I mean, I guess
bone broth.
You can buy it, but do you want to boil stuff every time you want?
Right. It can be quite laborious.
Throw a scoop in water and drink it.
I mean, that's what I did this morning. I've got bone broth protein. That's what I took. So, but basically, that's what it is. It's just dehydrated bone broth with all the nutritional benefits. So it's gut healing. It's anti-inflammatory. You get the type 2 collagens, the type 1 collagens. You get the protein, the amino acid profiles in it. So it's pretty solid.
Why would anybody use a concentrate whey protein? Why not just use the bone broth?
If you want something that's more immune boosting, I would always go with the whey protein concentrate. Also, as a support for detoxification, if you get unprocessed whey protein, you get a lot of this particular amino acid that you're not going to get in heated products. There's a couple benefits to one. There's other benefits to the other. So it just kind of depends on what your main goal is.
My concern is with this show that people who are listening may be confused. So we need to condense this in a way and say, this protein is for this protein is for this, and this protein is for this, to make it as terse as possible. So I want you to speak specifically about ingredients that are non-beneficial and potentially harmful in protein supplements. So if you have a protein supplement, get it out, see if any of these ingredients are in there, and they'll either be dangerous at some level if you're taking them all the time, or non-beneficial. You'll know to get rid of it, and then we'll direct you where you can go get some quality protein.
Absolutely. Dr. Webster, chime in on this as well. One of the first things I wanted to talk about was the amount per scoop, because a lot of people tout that, oh, we've got 40 grams of protein per scoop. You're not going to absorb that much protein.
Right. 24 grams for a male, and I think it's 20 grams for a female each serving, right?
Correct. So, you're getting 40 grams of protein in a 60 serving tub for $29.95. You're literally wasting half that. Artificial sweeteners. If you see sucralose, they might put trace amounts of stevia in there, but the primary sweetener is still sucralose because it's less expensive.
Will it say that? Will it say the primary is sucralose?
No.
What will it say?
You'll just see in the ingredients.
People looking at their ingredients.
If you see sucralose on the tub, don't use it. Dr. Webster.
Aspartame.
Of course, aspartame.
Yeah. But they still use that stuff.
Yeah. Keep going down the list of those.
It's still used.
If this is in there, don't use it. What is that?
Non-grass-fed cows. So if it doesn't come from a grass-fed source.
Will it say non-grass-fed cow on it?
I think you'll mainly see from grass-fed cows.
Right. So what else in the ingredients are dangerous?
Well, those are the big ones. There's some that even have things like food dye. There's one here that I'm reading right now.
Food dye.
Natural flavors.
I don't know why they have to use this, but red dye number 40 could be in a protein powder.
Right.
I personally don't like people using casein products. And I understand that there's maybe some muscle benefits to it, and if you're not allergic at all, it might be fine to use casein products. But casein is a lot of people have allergies and sensitivities to casein, so I'm not a big fan of those.
Qualifying questions to help someone identify which protein source or protein supplement they should use. What are some of those qualifying questions?
If you want to make it easy, just go to Protein.com, scroll halfway down, it asks which protein is best for you. Click on that. It asks you some simple questions, and you arrive at which protein would be best for you depending on your needs.